This is Benny, my sourdough starter. This sourdough starter is currently 1 year old, but it's about to turn 2 years old. As you can see, it's a very strong sourdough starter. Currently deflating it, but this is what the sourdough starter looks like. And now we're gonna make sourdough bread with them. So right now I'm gonna be making 2 sandwich loaves. So if you wanna follow along and only make one, you can have the whole recipe. Now this sourdough sandwich recipe is inspired by lionsbread.com. So I'll link them down in the description below. So first off, I'm gonna start off with 480 grams of water. It's very important with sourdough to use a scale. I like to use a wireless display scale so that if I ever have big bowls like this, I'll be able to read it. 480 grams of water. All right. If it's off by like 1 or 2 grams, it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. And then I'm gonna scoop out 240 grams of sourdough starter. Honestly, it doesn't really have to be floating, but if it's floating, that's fine. It just means that it has a lot of bubbles. But if I were to mix this down and then put it into water, then it would obviously sink. But as you can see, it's floating, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, as you can see, the sourdough starter is floating on top. This is still not necessary because if you really want to know if your sourdough starter is active, that's when the float test comes in. But if you know that your sourdough starter is mature enough that it will be active when you're ready to use it, you don't have to worry about this. So now I'm gonna add 830 grams of flour. I don't usually use regular H-E-B, Walmart, whatever brand of bread flour you use. I like to use King Arthur, but I have this in the pantry, so I might as well just use it. And you can use any wheat flour. I like to use wheat flour in my bread. It doesn't matter what brand it is. But if you don't like wheat flour, you can just do 830 grams of just bread flour. I like to do 20% wheat, 80% white. But I could also switch it up to 25% wheat, 75% white, but it's however you feel, but I'm gonna do 80-20. We're gonna have 166 grams of whole wheat, and then we're gonna have 664 grams of bread flour. And this is also why I like to use a scale, because if I had if I did cups instead of grams, I would have to use a measuring cup to scoop it out. And that would be another dish that I'd have to wash, so I'm not doing that. So 166 grams of whole wheat. And this is doubled, so you can easily just half the whole recipe. You wanna get your flour as close to the recipe as possible because flour is the deciding factor in sourdough. So whenever you look at percentages, it's mostly based on how much flour you have. So let's say you have 80% hydration. That's basically how much flour you have, times it by 0.8, that's how much water you're gonna add. Everything is decided by the flour. So your flour will always be marked at 100% because that's gonna be your limiting factor. Yes, science. So people do 80% hydration, 0.1% fat, 0.1%, I'm just throwing numbers out there. 0.1% salt, that type of stuff. This one is 667, but that's fine. As long as it's close enough, we are Gucci. The recipe calls for honey, 40 grams of it, but I don't have honey right now, so I'm gonna use sugar. People put sugars and honey into sourdough bread so that it doesn't eat all of the flour immediately. And you usually do that if you don't want the bread to be too hard. So if we add some source of carb, which is sugar or honey, you can make your sourdough a lot softer than expected. So I'm gonna put 40 grams of sugar into this. And I'm also gonna put 40 grams of olive oil into this. This is also helping the sourdough to stay soft. I'm also gonna add 20 grams of salt into this. So salt helps to slow down the yeast consumption, and it also helps to flavor the bread also. So please add salt. It tastes much better when you add salt. And I believe that's all for the recipe part of it. So this is what everything should look like once it's added together. So I'm just gonna take a fork or any kind of a stick that you want. I'm gonna slowly mix everything together. Also, if you add whole wheat, just know that it takes a lot more hydration to mix in a whole wheat than using bread flour by itself. The reason why is because whole wheat takes a lot more water to reach the same consistency as bread flour. So if you want to do like a whole 100% whole wheat flour or 100% whole wheat loaf, you'll have to use a lot more water than this. And this is not just, it's not applicable to just like whole wheat. It's also applicable to like acorn. I think that's how you say it. I think barley as well. I'm not completely sure about the other flours. Rye for sure. Yeah, it takes a lot more water to make a whole wheat loaf. But you can experiment with everything if you want. That's the art of sourdough, because experimentation, it can find something new or you can fail. But it's okay to fail because I failed a ton. Granted, I never took pictures of them because I was like, why would I take a picture of something I failed on? But that's fine. We live and learn. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my bowl scraper and I'm just getting everything that's off the sides into the loaf. And I'm just gonna try to make sure that it gets as incorporated as possible. I don't want to put too many dry spots in there because even though it's gonna hydrate itself once you let it rest, it's still going to leave dry spots, and I don't want dry spots. Your dough is gonna be super sticky once you get to it. Also, the reason why I like King Arthur's bread more than like regular store-bought bread is because it has a higher protein percentage. And with a higher protein percentage, it's much easier to get a better gluten network. Now, there's a bit of dry spots where I am right now, but I think that this is as much as I can do for now. It's gonna be sticky, it's gonna be tacky, but do not worry. Eventually it is going to be more elastic. It's gonna be much easier to work with. Do not worry. So what I'm doing is I'm just gathering everything into a ball so that it can all work together. And now I'm just gonna cover it. And then I'm gonna take it to a warm spot like the garage or the warmest part of your pantry. And I'm gonna leave it there for 30 minutes. I'm gonna stretch and fold. And I'm gonna repeat this 3 more times and then let it sit for 8 hours to double in size, or at least nearly double in size. So it's 30 minutes later and I'm going to see what my dough looks like. It looks somewhat sticky, which makes sense for a bread that is in its first fold. So I just wet my hands and now I'm going to scoop under and I'm going to lift and fold, stretch and fold. And this is just to develop the gluten network a little bit more so that when you work with it later, it's not as sticky. So like right now it's not as sticky because the whole wheat, honestly, the whole wheat helps a lot with making it not so sticky because I think it has more protein than bread flour. But basically I'm looking for, once the dough starts getting like tough to lift and stretch, that's when you know that your stretch and fold is done, because I don't like to break the gluten network. So that means like if I ever like lift it and tear it, like how is it, like that, that's basically like severing a gluten network that I've already established. So I'm just gonna keep going until the dough doesn't want to stretch no more. Like to lift it up and then push back down. I just slap my hands onto it so that it can hopefully grab some of the remains that's on my fingers. 50% chance that it'll actually do it, but yeah, I think I might make it a little bit worse. So once I'm done scraping my hands, I'm just gonna scrape the bowl to make sure nothing gets dry and make sure all those little flakes come back off. If you don't have a bowl scraper, you can easily just take the dough and like run it along the side. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But I personally like to use the bowl scraper because it's flexible and it gets all the little bits that I can't reach. So now we're just gonna cover it back up. We're gonna put it back in the warm spot for another 30 minutes. And then we're gonna do this about 3 more times for about 2 hours of stretch and folds. So now that I'm done with my sourdough bread, I'm gonna refeed my starter. So my starter is like pretty liquidy right now. So as you can see, the thing is gonna tilt and it's going to move. So what I like to do is I like to make my sourdough starter more like a thick pancake batter consistency. So basically I'm gonna put more flour than water, but it's not gonna be like so thick that it's not gonna be able to rise up. And we rise up. I'm gonna let it do its rising because these are not the flours that my sourdough starter likes, or it's been like fed on for the longest time. It's been fed off of like King Arthur regular bread flour. So introducing a new flour is going to help it like adapt to different flours. I feel like I have done these two flours before, but it's been like so long, I'm not sure if the yeast inside are okay with it right now. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of water. I have not added whole wheat flour into this starter for like, I think a whole year. This thing's gonna be a little bit happy. So right now it's like super thick, like it's like dough thick. So I'm just gonna keep adding water until it gets to the consistency that I like. So as you can see now, the sourdough is more like a lava consistency, or like a thick pancake batter consistency. This is how I like to keep it. I don't weigh when I feed my starter because my starter is already like so established that it doesn't really need it. So I just like to feed it until I get to this consistency because it's not too thick and it's not too thin. However, if you want to do like 100% hydration, you can pull some of this out and then you can feed it in equal parts in grams. Equal parts in grams, water and flour, and that's how you get your 100% hydration starter. But honestly, I can do like any hydration starter with this sandwich bread and it doesn't really affect it too much, as long as it's not like a super stiff starter. So now I'm just gonna adjust the rubber band that I have over this mason jar to be in line with the top of the sourdough starter immediately after I finish feeding it. The reason why is so I can like track how high this sourdough starter gets. Because as you saw in the beginning of the video, you can see that the sourdough starter more than doubled. That's because I tracked the initial height of the sourdough starter immediately after feeding. So that one's doubled. So now I'm just gonna wait for this one to double before I shove it in the freezer for its probably 1 month long hibernation. This is the second stretch and fold. It's getting much smoother now. Not sticking as much anymore. Even if I squeeze it, it's not sticking as much. Now we're gonna let it rest for another 30 minutes. This is a third stretch and fold, and you can see that it's getting a lot smoother. And this is our final stretch and fold of the sourdough. It's super loose, super loose. Let me see if I can grab a corner. You can see the window pane test. You can see my fingers through it and it hasn't broken. Well, it broke a little bit, but with the whole wheat, it's gonna break a lot more because it's bigger fibers compared to the small fibers of the bread flour. So I'm just gonna do one last stretch and fold. And then I'm gonna let it sit in the garage since it's warm today. Let it sit in the garage for about 6 hours because I started this sourdough a little late. And if I do it by my normal schedule, I would be done by like 1 a.m. And I would try not to do that because I have work tomorrow and this is a Sunday. Try not to be tired for work, so just gonna gather everything into a ball. And like the majority of the water is off my hands, but still not sticking as much. So that means that the gluten network is doing pretty good. Yep. Just gonna scrape down the sides one last time. I don't have to worry about the little bits on the side too much because one, the cover is completely sealing all the moisture inside. And two, once this thing rises, it's gonna be like around here. It's gonna be like around this area. So once I scoop it out to shape it, it's gonna get all of this out and I won't have to worry about it later. Now I'm gonna put the lid on and let it sit for about 6 hours now. So I already cleaned this work surface, so I am good to work directly on it. So I'm gonna put a little bit of water on the work surface so that the dough can lift easily. And here's my sourdough loaf. So I'm gonna carefully, slowly turn it on over onto the counter without touching the bowl on the bottom. That should be a good start. This is why I absolutely love the bowl scraper. Now it's clean. So now, without manipulating it too much, I'm gonna roughly, oh wait, I forgot. I need to wet the bud scraper before I start cutting it in half. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carefully try to cut it in half. I feel like this is roughly half. No, that's too much. Yeah, that's half. Let's work with this first. So as you can see, this dough is super light. How do I say it? It's super stretchy, super light, super flexible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move it into like a rough triangle. It does not have to be perfect. And I'm just gonna fold the sides in, fold the sides in, open the top, and roll it in on itself while stretching. Need to pick up all this small debris. Now again, sourdough is like super forgiving once you know what you're doing. So right now I'm just stretching the skin out so that I can get a tight seal and a good rise. Trying not to manipulate it too much. So now I have my seam that's on the other side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to lift it up where the seam is down and I'm gonna place it inside my baking dish. You'll see what it is in a minute, but right now I need to fold the other one. Grab my dough, put it on there, and I'm gonna stretch it out. Don't want to put out too much of the air, but if you do, that's completely fine. So I have a rough square. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one side, I'm gonna take the other side. Flatten out the middle because we don't want any lumps. Then I'm going to pull back and push forward. So now I have a good loaf. I'm gonna tuck in the sides. Then I'm gonna tighten it.
Gotta check where the seam is. Let's make sure that everything is tucked in on these sides. And then I'm gonna put it into one of these baking pans for bread. So now I'm just gonna take the bench scraper and scrape all of this off. And then we're gonna clean up the workspace. So right now these things are like slightly uneven. This one might have had too much punched out of it, but that is a-okay. If anything, I could like flatten it out and it will reach the sides. This one's definitely gonna be bigger than this one, but that's fine. So now I'm gonna cover these and I'm gonna put them back into the garage or a hot spot in the house, and I'm gonna wait for them to double. I'm gonna wait for them to get like around, like over the lip of the loaf. So these sourdough loaves have been out for about almost 16 hours now. I put them in the fridge around 11 and it's currently 6 p.m. the next day. They're really forgiving. So this loaf was the big loaf and it was like really domed over when I took it out the refrigerator. But I'm just taking away all the bubbles because these ones will turn super dark when you bake them and it'll turn into like a cracker instead of actual bread. So I basically just popped a bunch of the bubbles on this one because this one had a lot more bubbles than this one. But once they are baked, the crumb would look really good. They're not gonna be like too open like regular sourdough bules, but the sandwich bread for sourdough is extremely forgiving. So if you ever want to try sourdough in loaf form, please do so. It's really good. So right now I have my oven going up to 375, and I also have a ice cube tray on the bottom. So what the ice cube tray it's gonna do is you're gonna put some ice cubes in and it's gonna help make some steam while the bread is cooking. I'm gonna do a lot more stuff to help create more steam, but right now I'm just having the ice cube tray preheat with the oven so it can get hot when I put a cup of ice inside there. Honestly, more ice the better, but it's whatever you feel. So now that my oven is preheated, I'm going to spray some water onto the top just to help with a little bit of steam. Not too much, but enough to see a little bit of pooling of water on the sides. This should be good. So I just put in my loaves. I added some ice into the ice tray and that created a little bit of steam, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open this oven a little bit and I'm gonna spray in some water. So I'm gonna do it just like this. I like to do that a lot throughout the baking process. It doesn't have to be like a set schedule. I just like doing it whenever. And I'm also gonna set a timer for 40 minutes. Also, if I notice that the top is browning too quickly, I just come in and spray the top a little bit, just to slow down the browning of the top a little bit. Then come back in and spray again. Also be mindful of where your ice tray is compared to your bread, because the heat won't heat up these breads evenly. So basically the tray is interfering with this side of the bread being browned and the tray is interfering with this side of the bread being browned. So what you want to do is halfway through you want to switch them around so that all sides underneath the top of the loaf are getting browned evenly. So here are the loaves immediately after baking. You can see the little speckles of bubbles that lots of artisans like to get when they make their bread. See it much better on this one, all the little bubbles they got. So they're still inside of their They're still inside their loaf pan. I'm gonna get them out because if you keep them in, they're gonna sweat and then it's gonna be soggy underneath. So I'm just gonna run a knife along the edge of this bread. All right, and now I'm gonna flip it onto the wire rack. And hopefully the bottom and the sides are all golden brown. Okay, let me put this back in the oven because it's really hot. All right, another good and crusty loaf. Let's see if you can hear that crust. All right, enough of that. Let's flip it over. Oh, I cracked the top. Whatever. All right, and let's unbox the next one. All right, next one. Oh, this one came out much easier. Wow. Let's make sure that it doesn't crack because I don't want that to happen again. So now we have two very nice looking sourdough loaves. This one's definitely much denser than this one. Like you can see, there's probably a huge hole right here actually. I should have popped that. Oh yeah, there's a huge hole right here. Right now we're gonna butter it because it's hot. I don't have butter, but I do have ghee. So I'm just gonna butter the top and sides of this loaf. As you can see, the color is much brighter. Now that everything is buttered, here comes the hardest part. Covering the bread and waiting for it to cool down to room temperature. All right, so everything is cooled down now and you'll already see that there's already a cut in there. That's because when I touched the loaf, it felt like it looked empty. So basically I was pushing on it, I was like this, I was like, why is it so like pliable? It felt like that there was like nothing there. It felt like there was a huge hole. So I got worried. I got worried that there was a huge hole in it. But what actually happened was the bread is super soft. Yeah, there's a hole inside of it, but like it's super soft. I'm not sure how this happened. I'm not exactly sure how this happened, but it's super soft. Much softer than I've ever made it before, because when I made it with white bread, it's usually much harder than that. So if you put 20% wheat and 80% bread flour, you might want to put it in the oven for a bit longer if you want like a harder loaf. But this is really light and airy and I kind of like it. Yep. There we go. You can see how easy sourdough is when you put it into a loaf pan, because the sourdough would take any shape that you put it in now. Still a hard-ish crust. And the bottom section of the loaf doesn't have the gum line. Although it's not as sour, there's still a bit of sour taste from how long I left it in the fermentation stage. But yeah. A little gummy, that's all. Well, there you have it. We have sourdough bread for the week. Or 2 weeks. If you try this recipe, let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you guys like to see more like this in the near future. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.